Here's your guest host, Chanel. I am host of Structure and Soul podcast. I am also the founder and marketing consultant and brains behind Socially Savvy Consultant. And founders and consultants bring me on their teams. Quite honestly, most of my clients have a love hate relationship with social media, right? Sometimes we all do, but my clients have a love hate relationship with social media and they bring me on their teams when they want to create easy to implement social media strategies and expand their audience. So, today we're going to be diving into a live prompt. And I'm going to read it word for word because I want to make sure that you got it. And then I'm going to answer it. So, your mind is a garden. How it looks when it's distressed. Ooh, now, if you know anything about gardening, you know when a plant is in distress, how it looks in distress, and how you're healing now. So, I am also joined, that's our live prompt. I'm also joined today with Grace Love. So, Grace, introduce yourself real quickly, and we're going to dig into the prompt.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Like she said, my name is Grace Love, and I am the host of My Safe Place, which has been it's been a podcast for about, say, ironically, since 2008. I started off on Facebook, and then luckily was found by Miss Angel last year and joined the Podcast Network. And I call it My Safe Place because I along with a lot of other people, of course, went through like a lot of mental health, challenges and struggles and whatnot. And I realized one of my biggest issues was I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe in my mind,
Mm,
my body, nothing. And anybody that has any kind of mental health training, that's one of the biggest
yeah.
issues is being safe.
Yep.
But then ironically, I realized mental health affected everything. It
It
affected my
spills
ability to
into
work.
everything.
It affected
Yes.
my ability to work out, take care of my kids. And then it was just so many spoken taboo kind of things when it came to mental health, especially in our Black community, that when I was able to, I guess, see, from beyond the clouds and everything, I just wanted someone else, at least one person, not to have to go through that struggle and for
Mm-hmm.
everybody else to have a safe place. So that's how it got started.
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna dig right on into this prompt because our listeners are super duper busy. They're probably
Yup.
moving and shaking. We're on smack in the middle of rush hour on the East Coast, and they're
Yes.
probably moving and shaking. So let's dig right on into the prompt. So I was just reading it when you popped on. Your mind is a garden, and how it looked. How did it look when you were in distress? But more importantly, how does it look now that you are healed or healing? Because we're all healing in some areas, so it's
Yes.
a continuation. So tell us about your mind being a garden and what it looked like in distress, and one thing that listeners can walk away with a healing that you're currently doing.
Awesome. So you said it perfectly. We're still healing. And that's exactly how a garden actually is. You don't just plant a garden and walk away and be like, that's it. No, you got to do a lot of preparation. You got to do continuous maintenance and whatnot. So my mind basically looked like the old school story called Secret Garden.
Mm.
That's what it was. Like if you ever seen the movie and it was like, that's what was going on in my head. You didn't know where you were going. There was something touching you. You was freaking out about nothing. You was ignoring the actual danger. So that's ironically how it felt within my mind. And then it started to feel like in my household as well. So then my house started resembling what my mind was going through
So your
at the
outside was looking
same
like
time.
the inside.
Yes. And then I have twins, boy and girl. So what a lot of people don't realize is very much we say, do as I say, not as I do. The
Hmm.
kids be paying attention to
Yes, I'm a
you,
twin mom as well.
so you understand, and I'm over here like, why are they acting that way? And my mom's like, they get it from you.
Yeah.
That's why. So as like with a garden, the irony, I did not like plants and gardening and farming, but I actually have successfully been keeping about five aloe plants alive. And I realized you
Hmm.
have to research, you have to pay attention. Each plant is different. Each plant needs different soil. It may not be from this area. Like I live in Maryland, but I've lived in Florida and Massachusetts, South
Hmm.
Carolina, and each of those plants are different. Some of them are that's their original habitat, and some of them aren't. So if you're not in your original habitat, there's certain things, extra things you need within yourself. And that's the same thing with us.
Yeah.
Whether you're moving, whether you're relocating for whatever reason, work, the military, whatever it may be, you need to be able to take that basic stuff that you need. And sometimes you know, and sometimes you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't the slightest idea. Like with gardening, they'll be like, "Oh, let's split up the pot, the plants because it's getting too big."
Right.
Well, how do I do that? What do I do? I got to go to the store. I don't have this. You might need help. And that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it was. I got to a certain point of being able to do certain things. And then I was like, all right, God, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I need help. But you have to open your mouth and be like,
Yes.
I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help
Yep.
out?
Yep.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I enjoy a little bit of time in the garden. I'm a pot plant mom. You
Okay.
know, I'm not a big let me dig a new hole in the ground type person, but I will garden the heck out of some pots. And I love being able to find really cool, plants and new things. And at the end of the season, there's some plants that are going to come back and there's some plants
Hmm.
that are just going to die at the end of the season. And my mother in law taught me this lesson, and I would always just throw them all away. You get to the end and you toss them all away. And she's like, you never know what's gonna come back. And here's the thing, and I keep those plants and they start to bloom. Some things that you thought were dead
Hmm.
literally will start to show back up, but in a positive way, in a beautiful way. And so when I think about business and when I think about your mind as a garden, everything that you do, everything that you cultivate, all the new relationships you have,
Yeah.
networking opportunities, whether it is trainings and skills that you've picked up. Sometimes you pick up things and you toss it to the side because you don't
Hmm.
realize that you are going to need it later. But everything in some way or another, it all works together, it all comes back. And so some things that you think might be dead, we're
Yeah.
in a space right now, as a visibility consultant, we're in a space right now where things that you may have been trying a year ago, they don't work like they were doing.
Correct. Yeah.
They don't work the same. And so, as it relates to, cultivating and creating new relationships, sometimes you got to go back to the basics and see, you know what? I thought that idea was dead. I thought that dream was dead. I thought that strategy was dead. But let me put a little dirt on it. Let me water it a little bit. Let me put some fertilizer on it and see what is going to come from it. And so that is how I interpret the mind being
Hmm.
a garden and how you can heal, how it transforms, how
Yeah.
it, what it looks like in distress, for sure. So, what is one tangible way that we can leave our guests with in terms of healing?
Always be willing to learn new
Yeah.
techniques, but also, like you said, don't throw away the old techniques. You
Hmm.
might be able to bring them back. You might do a little mix and match. It's very much, I guess, always be a student.
Yeah.
Always be a student. Always be prepared to find new ways to do things, but also give yourself grace at the
Hmm.
same time. So be a student that gives yourself grace. And what I mean by that, more importantly, support and believe in you
Hmm.
just as much as like your biggest fan. It's great to have support, right? The
Yeah.
soil, the water, the sunlight, and all that. But if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't actually take the action, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. That's like, having all the seeds and everything, and then you just sit there and leave it on the counter.
Right.
And it never happens. Nothing ever happens with it. So even if like the temperature, the landscape, everything's great, if you're not actually willing to do it, or you're
Hmm.
too scared because of past failures, or oh, it's 2025, things aren't the same, you do yourself a disservice. So
Right.
definitely like go back to the beginning, that healing, heal whatever part of you that doesn't allow you to support yourself and give yourself continuous grace.
I
And
love
just
that.
be realize you're gonna mess up some days and there's
Hmm.
nothing you can do about it. Everything you did, everything right.
Yeah, you know what? You just brought up a good point about pruning. And I know we're talking about gardens, we're talking about business, we're talking about mental wellness, but pruning is an important part of that process
Absolutely.
because there are some things that you might be holding on to, dead leaves, right? Going back to that plant analogy, but dead leaves, dead relationships. I know I said earlier some of those things come back for good, but sometimes you got to trim off the things that are no longer serving you so that you can grow. So I love that you talked about you hinted to it, but I love that you talked about the pruning
Yeah.
process as well.
It's like the idea of there's everything, there's a time and a reason for everything, or a season, right?
Mhm.
This might be your season, like you said, like you did something back in 1995, right?
Right.
And then for all you know, that skill that you totally forgot gets activated and it's there's a reason why you didn't use it because it wasn't that time. Like
Mm-hmm.
some people are like, yo, I haven't been able to plant anything over here in years. Well, now the atmosphere is different and everything else. It's the
Right.
same thing with that. Don't be discouraged, but definitely do an overhaul. Like look inside your mental shed and be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, there goes that one shovel that I bought 5 years ago.
Right.
Bet. So,
Right. So I'm just gonna continue with this garden theme because I think it's just so cool as it relates to business and mental wellness. So let's talk about seed planting and planting seeds in on good ground, right? So I find that right this moment where we are in business, I find that a couple things. One, people find that in summertime they feel like it can be slow. They feel like it can be slow with sales. They feel like it can be slow in terms of visibility. Everybody's checked
Mhm.
out on vacation. But what I find is that the seeds that you plant now, your visibility seeds, the relationships that you're building, those skills that you're picking up, they start to bloom for you by year end. And so, a lot of times we get very impatient. I know in gardening for sure, you plant a seed and you keep trying to mess with the dirt to see what's going to come up. But if you know that you've planted those good seeds on relationships and business building skills, they will bloom for you.
Absolutely. And it definitely has to do with the soil. I mean, sometimes you could have did everything and then everything in a bag of chips, but it was at
Yeah.
the wrong place. Like
Right.
trying to grow a pine tree and I don't know,
Did you it pop up an orange tree? Who
California
knows?
or something, right?
Right.
Like what are you doing? Like we actually had a garden when I was younger when we moved to Florida, and the hilarious part was the soil was great, but what we didn't pay attention to were the animals
Oh,
and what
oh,
like so we didn't have a fence, we didn't have no repellent, and so we walked outside one day and realized that all the deer was like, "Thanks for the buffet." So you gotta pay
wow.
attention to, maybe this isn't the right place. Maybe there's like different, elements you gotta think of. Sometimes it's not you per se, it's your connections. And
Yeah.
that's definitely something that I've learned with healing, like with the pruning. There's some people that are gonna go with you throughout life. And then there's some
Mm-hmm.
people they're kind of like, the perennials or seasonal plants. Like I'm here for a couple months and then I go off. And then I pop back up
Right.
and then I go off. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like the friend that we don't see for 2 years, but we're still really close.
Mm-hmm.
But don't ask me what she ate last night because I ain't got the slightest idea. Like stuff like that,
Yeah.
or not giving them the right water. It's just so many different things, especially in healing, but also how it relates to business. Like
Absolutely.
you might have spoke to the wrong person.
Yeah.
You were talking to the front desk person, didn't know that was front desk. Dear heart, you need to go to the hiring manager.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
you don't go to the Baltimore office. Go to the DC office.
Mm-hmm.
That's more like your thing. But that also comes to just being willing and open to improvement, education, and searching. And sometimes just realize you have no business
Mm.
growing a cactus because you keep pricking yourself. I don't know
That
why you
sound
keep playing
that
with
sounds like
roses.
that was a true story. All names have been changed to protect the guilty.
Look, like I'm over here trying to grow, sunflowers, and I know damn well that's not gonna work because I'm
Absolutely.
allergic, hypothetically.
Right.
So there's just certain things like, why are you doing that? So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are joined here. We're here on a live prompt. We're chatting about your mind being a garden and what it looks like when it is in distress, but also what that healing process looks like. I'm Chanel. We are doing a takeover. I'm with the Structure and Soul podcast, and I'm also a visibility strategist. And consultants bring me on their teams when they have love hate relationships with social media. And I have Grace here as well. So, Grace, recap real quick what you do, who you serve, and let's leave one closing tip before we hop off.
cool. So the name is Grace Love, my safe place, and I also run a nonprofit that deals with mental health and educating people to avoid abuse and such like that. The irony is sometimes lately I have actually been using my life coach certification and
Mm,
actual spiritual healing certification because there's a lot of wounds within people that they're not
mhm,
real, they don't realize, or even if they do, but they just need like a help in the right direction.
mhm,
And some people will be like, "Oh no, my love life is great." but how's your relationship with your job, with your
Yeah.
business? Like that's abuse too, and just
Hmm.
realizing what to do and how they need to go about it. It's not necessarily saying like you need to quit, but maybe you need to learn how to communicate differently. Maybe you're the issue
Yeah.
because of something else. A lot of people have issues with authority. And it's definitely funny what you said, like people got the love-hate relationship with social media. So it's like, so
Hmm.
why is that? Are you scared of change? Is something happened a few years ago up to change? So I show people, what is already inside them and basically just help them to be the best versions of what they want to be. It's not what I think they should be or what I want them to do. It's
Hmm.
what are your goals? Why do you want this? How could you best bring this to life and give them as much support as they need as they're going with it?
Awesome. All right. So if someone is watching or listening and they want to get a hold of you, where can people find you?
I am on Facebook at My Safe Place. It has someone, a female figure of doing like a namaste. And I am also on Instagram at Gracelove underscore My Safe Place 1347. And always feel free to email me um, at My Safe Place 1347 at gmail.com. And I know people are like, what's with the 1347? Because it speaks about the scripture of the First Corinthians
Mm,
13th chapter, verses 4 through 7, and explaining like the true elements of love. And I think it's great to love somebody else like that, but I want people to love and support themselves first and in every way. And then
absolutely.
life will follow.
Absolutely. Well, if you are a consultant, a service based organization, you're watching and you loved my garden analogy, but specifically how it relates to your business and your visibility, would love to chat with you. Head over to Facebook or
Absolutely.
Instagram and you can find me at Chanel Evans. Instagram, I'm at the Chanel Evans. And tune in to both of our podcasts, Structure and Soul Podcast and My Safe Space.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Grace, it was good
It's a
chatting with
great
you.
combination.
Yeah, good
You
combination.
too.
It was great chatting with you, a fellow twin mom, and look forward to seeing all of the fruits and the blooms that are going to happen just based on our garden analogy. Chat with you later.
All right, take care.
Bye.